World of Warcraft has been building the most complex hero hierarchy in gaming for over 20 years. Every warrior, every paladin, every demon hunter sits on a power ladder stretching from local legend to beings that can destroy planets. Today I'm ranking every level of that ladder from bottom to top, starting with the heroes nobody talks about. Level 1, the Forgotten. Every hero in this tier is someone you probably respect, maybe even someone you love, and every single one of them would get absolutely dismantled by the characters at the top of this list. Before you push back, here is what level 1 actually means. These heroes are not weak. They change the world within their specific corner of the story, but their impact stops at the border of their own expansion, their own region, their own narrative lane. Regional legends, important to the people around them, invisible to the things above them. Cairn Bloodhoof is the perfect example. High Chieftain of the United Tauren Tribes, founder of Thunder Bluff, a warrior described as having the strength and valor of 20 men even in old age. He allied with Thrall during the Third War and became the moral backbone of the entire horde. Respected by both factions, a genuinely great leader. But here is the thing, Cairn did not die in battle. He died because Magatha Grimtotem secretly poisoned Garrosh's weapon before their Makagora. Not because anyone outpowered him, because someone cheated. That is the ceiling of level 1. A regional legend who can be ended by a poisoned blade and a political betrayal, not by anything approaching a worthy threat. Chen Stormstout is another one. Legendary brewmaster, iconic since Warcraft 3, the emotional heart of Mists of Pandaria. He rescued the poisoned Vol'jin, joined the Monk Order Hall in Legion, and the community considers him the strongest monk in lore. But his entire story lives inside Pandaria. He never touched the cosmic threats that define the higher levels 0 times. Then there is Earl, the best character Warlords of Draenor produced, a Draenei acolyte who rose from slavery to Exarch, the highest military rank in Draenei society. Sounds heroic. But the most interesting thing about Earl happens completely off screen, revealed during the Mag'har Orc recruitment in Battle for Azeroth. She became the High Exarch of the Lightbound, a fanatical crusade forcibly converting all of alternate Draenor to the light. A genuine hero turned religious extremist. Level 1's ceiling right there, and Magni Bronzebeard turned to literal diamond and became the voice of Azeroth's world soul, which sounds massive until you realize Queen Ashar called him exactly the Diamond King, made a pawn while using him to free N'Zoth from his prison. At this level, even cosmic proximity just gets you manipulated, but at least these heroes stayed heroic, mostly. The next level is where the class archetypes live, and things get a lot more complicated. Level 2, the archetypes, is where the class fantasy lives. These are the characters the community points to when someone asks who the strongest paladin is. The strongest warrior, the strongest warlock, every class has one, and they all live here. Uther the Lightbringer is the obvious starting point. He was the first paladin ever created, not the most famous, the first. He founded the Order of the Silver Hand, mentored Arthas, and refused to carry out the purging of Stratholme directly to his student's face. I will not follow that order, nor would any true knight. That moment cost him his life. Arthas murdered him in the snow outside Stratholme after he would not stand aside. But here is where it gets genuinely disturbing. Frostmourne did not just kill Uther, it shattered his soul into fragments. And in those fragments, a piece of him was consumed by rage and vengeance. He and the Kyrian Davos threw Arthas' soul directly into the maw, bypassing all cosmic judgment. That act of revenge sparked the entire Forsworn rebellion in Bastion and contributed to the Shadowlands nearly collapsing. The greatest paladin who ever lived accidentally helped break the afterlife. Grommash Hellscream delivered 2 of the most iconic moments in the entire franchise. He killed Manaroth and broke the blood curse on the Orcish people. We will never be slaves. Then, in Warlords of Draenor, his alternate timeline self redeemed that moment a second time. Draenor is free. Nobody else in the lore got to do that twice. But the community's unanimous pick for strongest warrior is not Grommash, it is Broxigar the Red. Using the axe of Cenarius during the War of the Ancients, Broxigar leaped through a portal and wounded Sargeras himself, the most powerful being in the known universe, described in lore as invincible. Broxigar put an axe in him and died moments later. 0 other mortals have ever done that. Nobody talks about it nearly enough. Kael'thas Sunstrider led the Blood Elves through the destruction of the Sunwell, then fell into fell corruption across Tempest Keep and Magister's Terrace. Garona Halforsen, the consensus strongest rogue, assassinated a king under magical compulsion. Maiev Shadowsong spent 10,000 years as Illidan's jailer and chased him across 2 continents screaming his name. Every single one of them legends, every single one of them completely outmatched by what is coming. Because level 3 is where the heroes stopped saving cities and started saving the world itself. Level 3, the protagonists. Level 2 characters define defined a class, level 3 characters defined entire expansions. These are not supporting cast. These are the story. Their deaths, their betrayals, their sacrifices are the moments the community still argues about. Varrock Sarfang is the best place to start. High Overlord of the Horde, veteran of every major war, brother of Broxigar. He watched his son Dranosh get killed at Icecrown Citadel and raised as a Death Knight. He carried that grief for years, and when Battle for Azeroth needed a conscience, Blizzard built an entire cinematic around him. Old Soldier has millions of views. It earned them. His final act was challenging Sylvanas to Mak'Gora at the gates of Orgrimmar. He split Charlemagne into its twin blades mid-duel. That matters because only one other person in history had ever done that. Varian Rin. Sarfang was channeling a dead king's power in his final moments, and Sylvanas still had to cheat to beat him. She blasted him with shadow magic instead of finishing the fight properly, and his death forced her to reveal exactly what she thought of the Horde. The Horde is nothing. His dying words were, "For Azeroth." Same as Varian's. That was not an accident. Vol'jin was the first non-orc war chief in Horde history. He earned it by leading the Darkspear rebellion against Garrosh. His threat to Garrosh before that rebellion is still one of the most quoted speeches in WoW. He promised Garrosh he would spend his entire reign looking over his shoulder, knowing exactly who fired the arrow that ended him. That is cinema. His death at the Broken Shore was later revealed to be a manipulation by the Aleloa Muezala, not divine guidance. Even his greatest moment was poisoned in retrospect. Garrosh Hellscream mana-bombed Theramore, excavated the heart of Y'Sharj, corrupted the Veil of Eternal Blossoms, and had to be stopped by a full raid of Azeroth's greatest heroes. Gul'dan disintegrated Varian Rin at the Broken Shore with a single gesture. These are not small threats. And then there is Alleria Windrunner, who spent 1,000 years fighting the Burning Legion and mastered the Void, and is currently the primary protagonist of the entire World Soul saga through the War Within and beyond. She is still ascending. At level 3, these heroes are shaping history, but at level 4, they are the only reason history exists at all. Level 4, the Pillars. Level 3, heroes drove one expansion. Level 4, heroes showed up to multiple apocalypses and kept showing up. These are the recurring protagonists, the ones the story could not function without. Tirion Fordring owns the single most legendary raid moment in WoW history. The Lich King kills the entire raid at Icecrown Citadel. Every hero dead. Arthas's plan is to raise them all as his new Scourge generals, the most powerful undead army ever assembled from the greatest champions Azeroth ever produced. And then Tirion, frozen in a block of ice, prays, "Light, grant me one final blessing. Give me the strength to shatter these bonds." The ice explodes, he charges, he hits Frostmourne with the Ashbringer and shatters it in a single blow, releasing thousands of trapped souls at once. That is not just a cool moment, that is the decisive action that ended Wrath of the Lich King. Now, without Tirion, the entire expansion ends differently. Varian Rin was magically split into two separate people by Onyxia's sorcery and still fought his way back from a gladiator pit to the throne of Stormwind. He died at the Broken Shore, destroying a Fel Reaver single-handedly so his soldiers could escape. For the Alliance, his last act was buying time. Every death at level 4 is sacrifice, not defeat. Bolvar Fordragon endured torture by the Lich King without breaking, not bending, not negotiating, zero. He sat in those chains, burning and screaming, and refused. When Arthas finally killed the raid and Frostmourne shattered, Bolvar made a choice nobody asked him to make. He put on the Helm of Domination voluntarily to contain the Scourge, then told Tirion to tell the world he was dead. Tell them only that the Lich King is dead, and that Bolvar Fordragon died with him. He spent years alone on that frozen throne so the world could sleep safely. Tyrande Whisperwind has led the Night Elves for over 10,000 years and underwent the Night Warrior ritual after Teldrassil burned, channeling Elun's full wrath into her body. That kind of power devastated entire groves of Ardenweld. She sentenced Sylvanas to millennia in the Maw when she finally caught her, not death, something worse. Khadgar closed the Dark Portal from the Draenor side and stranded himself there for years. He guided players through 2 full expansions as de facto field commander against the Burning Legion. His fate in the War Within is unknown after Xal'atath destroyed Dalaran around him. Anduin Wrynn had his mind controlled by the jailer through a corrupted mirror of Frostmourne, was freed by the spirits of his father and Sarfang, and lost his connection to the light entirely. When Thrall found him in Silithus years later and asked if he was still a king, Anduin said 2 words. Not anymore, but if level 4 heroes stopped apocalypses, level 5 heroes are the apocalypses. Level 5, the cosmic. Everything up to this point has been mortal scale. Mortal grief, mortal sacrifice, mortal courage. Level 5 is where that framework breaks. These beings do not fight in battles, they reshape continents, corrupt world souls, and bend the fabric of reality, and several of them have done exactly that. The dragon aspects are the entry point. 5 proto-dragons empowered directly by the Titan Pantheon to protect Azeroth. Alexstrasza, the Lifebinder, is queen of all dragons and guardian of all life on the planet. Nozdormu, the Timeless One, was given mastery of time itself by Aman'Thul, and carries the specific burden of having already witnessed his own future corruption into Murozond, leader of the infinite dragonflight. He knows he becomes the villain. He works against it. Anyway, Ysera guarded the Emerald Dream for 10,000 years before being corrupted and killed in Legion, then restored in Ardenweald. These are not powerful mortals, these are living extensions of Titan authority, but here is where it gets complicated. After defeating Deathwing and Cataclysm, every aspect sacrificed their Titan-given power to fuel the Dragon Soul. All of it gone. They became mortal. Dragonflight reversed that when Azeroth's World Soul re-empowered them, but not with Titan Order magic. With the planet's own living essence, they are still cosmic. They are just cosmic differently now. Archimonde raised Dalaran single-handedly. He snapped the neck of the demigod Malorn in direct combat. He required the full detonation of Nordrassil's primal energy to destroy at Mount Hyjal, and even that only worked because the Night Elves baited him there deliberately. Kil'jaeden created the Lich King, corrupted the Orcs, and was described alongside Archimonde as having been transformed by Sargeras into monsters and demigods. He was permanently killed inside the Twisting Nether during Legion, which is where demons go when they die. That took 20 years of in-universe effort to accomplish. Cenarius is the son of Elune and the demigod Malorn. He taught the Night Elves druidism and has been called one of the most powerful demigods of Azeroth. Immortal, ancient, furious when threatened, he was killed by Grom Hellscream after Grom drank demon blood. That is Grom's specific achievement. Nobody else at level 2 or 3 could replicate it. Queen Ashara wielded arcane power that rivals Archimonde and killed Jaden, and Zoth transformed her into the Naga Queen after the Sundering, and she has spent 10,000 years since then playing every faction against each other. She manipulated Magni, the world's speaker, into powering the artifact that freed N'Zoth from his prison. She is still alive, still undefeated, still planning. And Xal'atath casually destroyed Dalaran. The entire city, just gone. She is the current primary villain of the World Soul saga, and she is still ascending. But all of them, every single one, exists in the shadow of what comes next. Level 6 is not cosmic. Level 6 is where the legends live that the cosmos itself. Level 6, the near gods. Level 6 beings determined whether the world would exist at all. Their actions did not just save Azeroth, they set the conditions under which every single event in Warcraft history became possible. Start with Sargeras, the mightiest warrior of the entire Titan Pantheon, a planet-sized being who single-handedly murdered the full Pantheon using Fel magic, cleaved a corrupted world soul in two with a single swing, and shattered the prison world Mardum to build his demon army. His sword, Gorshalak, was described as the most powerful weapon in the universe. His body was so massive that when he stabbed Azeroth in Silithus with that blade during his final act of spite, it became the tallest visible object in the game world. That wound caused Azeroth's world soul to bleed Azerite across the entire planet and set up an entire expansion of conflict. Sargeras lost. He was imprisoned by the reformed Pantheon, but the stab still happened, he lost, and still permanently scarred the world. The community places him as the most powerful named character in WoW lore, and the evidence supports it. The only mortal who ever wounded him was Broxigar, using a demigod-crafted axe, who died immediately after. That is the entire list. Deathwing's canonical name is the Worldbreaker. He earned it. His emergence from Deepholm physically reshaped continents. His original crime was creating the Dragon Soul, an artifact that stole power from all other aspects and nearly destroyed them. His ultimate goal was the Hour of Twilight, the liberation of the old gods and the end of all life on Azeroth. He had 858 million health points at his final encounter, the highest in the game at that time, and required every remaining aspect to sacrifice their Titan-given power power combined with the dragon soul wielded by Thrall to destroy. His cinematic declaration is one of the most memorable in the franchise. I am Deathwing, the Destroyer, the end of all things, inevitable, indomitable. I am the Cataclysm. Medivh opened the Dark Portal while possessed by the spirit of Sargeras himself. That single act triggered every Orcish invasion that follows, which means every event in Warcraft history traces back to Medivh. He is the pivot point of the entire franchise. His mother, Egwene, the most powerful guardian of Tirisfal, defeated Sargeras' avatar in direct combat and lived nearly 900 years. Malfurion Stormrage, trained directly under Cenarius, helped seal the Well of Eternity to stop Sargeras from entering Azeroth during the War of the Ancients, and has protected nature for over 10,000 years. The community debate about his power level is endless, mostly because different writers treat him completely differently, but at his ceiling, he is operating at the edge of level 6. Every one of these figures altered Warcraft history at the root, but level 7 is not about altering history. Level 7 is about being the reason anyone still cares about it 20 years later. Level 7, the icons. Not the most powerful by every metric, not always the cleanest writing, still hurt people who quit the game a decade ago. Arthas Menethil is number 1, and it is not close. Crown Prince of Lordaeron, Knight of the Silver Hand, and then the Lich King, Lord of the Scourge. His tragedy is Warcraft's greatest story. A noble paladin who claimed Frostmourne despite every warning, murdered his father King Tarinas, destroyed Quel'Thalas, and merged with Ner'zhul to become the most powerful undead entity in existence. His powers were staggering. He raised the frostworm Sindragosa from ancient bones with a single gesture. He controlled an entire undead army through the Helm of Domination. He killed an entire raid of Azeroth's greatest champions simultaneously at Icecrown Citadel, intending to raise them as his new generals. And then Tyrion shattered Frostmourne, and Arthas collapsed, and his father's spirit appeared to carry him home. Father, is it over? That moment is the most emotional scene in WoW history. Nobody debates that. Ranker polls, Watch Mojo lists, 10-ton hammer rankings, community votes across 20 years. Arthas is always first. His Shadowlands treatment, reduced to a soul fragment that simply dissipated, generated the single biggest community backlash in WoW history. Fans are still furious. They are furious because they care. That is what level 7 means. Illidan Stormrage owns the most quoted line in WoW history: "You are not prepared." Born with golden eyes marking him for destiny, had his eyes burned out by Sargeras and replaced with spectral demon sight, consumed the skull of Gul'dan to become a demon hybrid, imprisoned for 10,000 years, and ultimately became the jailer of Sargeras himself at the seat of the Pantheon. His Legion redemption arc is the boldest long game narrative achievement Blizzard ever pulled off. When Zera tried to forcibly fulfill a prophecy by flooding him with holy light, he shattered a prime Naru. Your faith has blinded you, and there can be no chosen one. Only we can save ourselves. He is his scars. The community has never forgotten him. Thrall is the protagonist of Warcraft. Born a slave, raised as a gladiator, he united the orcs through shamanic tradition instead of demonic corruption, founded Durotar and Orgrimmar, and fired the Dragon Soul blast that destroyed Deathwing during Cataclysm. The community calls him Green Jesus and means it as both a joke and a genuine acknowledgement of his narrative weight. He is voiced by Chris Metzen, WoW's co-creator, which means when Thrall speaks, the man who built this world is speaking through him. And Sylvanas Windrunner is the most polarizing character in the history of this game. Killed by Arthas, transformed into a Banshee, founder of the Forsaken, Warchief of the Horde, architect of the burning of Teldrassil, and ultimately sentenced to spend millennia freeing souls from the Maw. She has generated more debate, more forum arguments, more community division than any character except Arthas. She ripped the Helm of Domination apart with her bare hands. She drove more cinematics, more plot, more emotional reactions than anyone below this tier. Love her or hate her, she is here. She was always going to be here. 20 years, 7 levels. From Cairn Bloodhoof dying to a poison blade, to Arthas dying in his father's arms, to Illidan imprisoning a god. That is the full ladder. That is World of Warcraft. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.